beautiful beings. Oneness evolving here. Feels really funny to be outside actually wearing 2 layers, but it's still nice and cool inside, and it was enough that I needed to put another layer on. So anyway, I'm going to show you the world because it's beautiful. In case you wonder what that resonance is in the background, actually I can show you. It's just stopped. But see, there's a concrete pouring machine there in the site, which you can't see. I think they're pouring foundations. So that's what's going on. And it was interesting because I was thinking, oh my goodness, how noisy this is. Hi Mike. But it's actually pretty perfect because today I'm talking about resonance. However, I'll do that when I get inside. Right now I'm just gonna love on these fuchsia flowers because they're gorgeous. And look at the Luculias. They are so good. You're just going to have to imagine the smell because the smell's glorious. And look, this is the buds. And look at the red stems. It's actually a part of the plant I really like. This the red versus the green, and the whole thing is just so graceful and it smells great. And then here, not to be ignored, are the Japanese anemones. And they're better in the shade. I mean, the sun is so bright. Actually, the camera handles the sun pretty well. Look at this lovely collection of red and pink. So it's beautiful out here. Oh, and let's enjoy this bark for a minute. I remember when I was a kid, there were these birch trees at the school where I went to school, and I loved the bark on them because it had all these different colours. So it is noisy here. I'm not going to stay outside for long, but I still want to show you the garden because I love this. Oh, there's an aeroplane. It's noisy, all right, but the wind and the leaves and the sunshine. And look, I did some more cleaning up here. We mowed the lawns. Oh my god, the lawns got done. It was an event. They need doing again, but I'm very excited that we managed to. And there are still a few late flowers, and look at all the weeds. I haven't got to that part yet. But look, we have a late dark blue cineraria and white roses. My god, this rose is such a good old friend. It keeps on going and going and going. And so there's always something going on out here, and yeah, I need to deadhead the roses. And look, this was a big deal. This was, see, there's a big, in fact, I'll take you to show you something. I hope the Wi-Fi will hold out. Hopefully. So I'll go on a little walk here past the dahlias, which take a moment to enjoy those and the bright ones, and then hopefully this is close enough to the house. See how there are big piles. There's big piles of stuff here that's drying in the sun. That's for a reason. Hi Carla, lovely to see you. Because, just going slowly so the connection doesn't break up. You can't really see, but there's the knotweed that runs all the way down the driveway there. Used to come further over the driveway. And last weekend, hubby and I took it back. And it was a lot of work. But as part of that, I turned over this compost heap. There's a lot of stuff sitting here, I know. But it will all end up, most of it will end up on the garden, stopping weeds from growing. And that's actually important in a garden like this. So just before we go inside, more lilies. This is fabulous. I really like this one. It's so bright and it smells really good. And I'm terribly mystified. I just don't know what these bulbs are. I think they're muscari, but if they're muscari, I'm really surprised because it's the middle of summer. And there is, you know, like a winter spring bulb. So I'm very confused, but we'll find out. And we've still got some lovely gold calendula flowers, which I just enjoy so much. And the very, very last of the Lilium regale. So, yeah, they're fabulous. And they smell good too. If you have this idea that there's a recurring theme of things that smell good, yeah, I like things that smell good. I really do. So I'm going to go inside now, and all the noise has gone away, and talk about resonance. Because there really are some days when we're kind of in flow and everything's working, and there are other days when it's just not. And this was just kind of a nice little line for me to talk about, if you like, as a hook to hang. I've just hung up my hat to hang my topic this week on, because well, you have to start somewhere and you have to say a little bit about what you're going to talk about, or why would you watch? So here I am back inside. It's quieter here, and right, phone is propped up, I'm propped up, I've got my little list of songs to say what I want to talk about. And so in my writing today, I did review. It was like, oh my God, where am I going to go next? And I reviewed what I had written so far in this particular chunk that I'm doing, and I tidied up bits of it. And then I thought, okay, I can't put it off anymore. What am I going to talk about now? Because if you've watched the last 2 or 3, no more videos, I've been writing about cymatics. And cymatics is when you have sound and it shapes matter, literally. If you have, the matter's got to be free to move, and there are other conditions that have to be met, but if you have the right sound and the right matter in the right situations, that matter will respond to the sound and it will make standing waves, interference patterns, and you will see stuff as a result of sound interacting with matter. So that's cymatics, and it's really cool, and I've really enjoyed writing about it. And before that, I've been talking about the fundamental structure of matter, because I've been learning from this guy called Nassim Haramein, who is a physicist and anthropologist, and I mean, he does quantum biology. What is it? I can't even remember the word, but it's like biology at the quantum level. He's a really cool guy, and he's got a team, and they have this lab in Switzerland, and but I've been learning a lot from him and his model, which is more than a model because there's maths around it, and the maths gives the right answers, because you can have a theory, right? But if you have an equation, that's your theory, and you plug numbers into it that everybody knows, I mean, the speed of light is this, and the size of a proton is this, and whatever, and you plug those numbers in, and it gives you exact values that can take the size of a proton and make it go as big as like you get the size of the universe. You plug the size of a proton into this equation, and you get the mass of the universe, and it's crazy because it just shouldn't be that accurate, but it is. So it's not just a theory, it's more than a theory or a model. It actually appears to be the way things are. So I've been unpacking that because I'm interested in this whole manifestation gig, and how are we, if we're really supposed to do mind over matter, and we're really supposed to be able to change matter with our mind, how the hell does that work? And so, you might as well know what matter is. And that's what I've spent probably about the last year talking about, is what actually is matter. Because everybody thinks, well, it's something that's solid, or, it's the air you breathe, or it's liquid, but actually, no, those are just sort of downward causation of the stuff that matter's actually made of. So go and check that out on Patreon. You'll find all of that stuff, and you can go, really, it's that deep a rabbit hole? Yeah, it was quite a deep rabbit hole. So we've been there now. And we're getting closer to this thing of, okay, so how do we do it? Because the thing that is for me is I'm interested in how does this actually work? And I've learned a great deal of how do you do it from Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I'm learning more about what it is that I'm doing it with from Nassim Haramein, and I'm kind of putting those together. But there's another piece that I think is uniquely me, and it is this business of, okay, so you have these tools that I've learned from Dr. Joe Dispenza, the clear intention, the elevated emotion. There's this wonderful meditations, which I do every day because I love the process of doing them so much and what they do for me and all of that. But what I notice is that many people, they have their process, whatever it is, but they actually struggle to know, well, what am I sensing? What am I feeling? And how do you push this energy around? How do you do this with your mind? And I don't mean, think positive. I'll have a really clear picture in your awareness, or even the very important thing of knowing how it feels and mentally rehearsing being there and all of that stuff. Because those are very practical things that people can learn how to do. They can learn the model, they can practice it. But what I seem to be good at, and I'm surely not the only person who's good at this, but I'm good at it, is when I hit the inevitable barriers in myself, because we do, right? We all go, oh, this is what I'm creating. And there's like, blah, something falls like a lead balloon inside us. We can't work it out. We can't make it go. We can't feel the feeling, or we can't imagine it, or whatever it is. We all get stuck. And I got stuck for decades. I mean, you know, first of all, I had no idea that it was even possible to change that stuckness. And then I sort of had this idea that you were supposed to be able to do that, but I had no idea how. And now I've actually got tools, but I still observe, even though, because I'm in groups where people are using these tools and they're doing stuff, and the kinds of questions that they ask, specifically about, well, I've hit this barrier in myself, but I don't know how to navigate it. And not always, because nobody's that good, but many times it's like, well, I think I would approach it this way, and I say what I say and think, oh, that was really useful. I hadn't thought of that. And so all of this is me wandering on about the fact that I'm going to have to start to unpack how I do that, and how I might teach that, and how I might break that into manageable bite-sized pieces that people can learn how to navigate inside themselves when they hit a barrier inside themselves. And that's, to me, you know, it's like, I remember when I started talking about this whole structure of matter thing and writing about that, to me was like biting into a big old apple with a really shiny skin, and it's a really big apple and you can hardly get your teeth into the apple to take the first bite. Compared to that, this feels like I'm starting to want to take a bite out of a whole planet, right? Because my brain says, oh, you want to talk about how to overcome the resistances inside you, and actually it's like, no, I don't. Because there are a ton of tools for doing that, and I can point people to those tools, and I love to do that. The planet that I'm wanting to take a bite out of is how it is when you bang into that brick wall inside yourself, and I've done this so many times, and you think, I don't even know what this brick wall is. I can't even, it's not even get my head around it. It's like you are walking into a wall and it's invisible air, and yet there's this wall and you can't get past it. And what I've learned to do for myself, and therefore to at least try to describe and explain and break down for others, is how I get through those walls that you can't even see and that you don't know what they are. And I do that regularly now because they come up for me all the time, but I know what to do with them. So that's the next big piece that I'm doing. And now I better talk about what I actually said I was going to talk about, which is this whole resonance thing, and why we're on some days and off the others, and why having the concrete machine out there going wee like it was actually so appropriate. Because the reason why cymatics is the example of frequency changing matter, and the reason why some days we are really just humming and everything works, and other days when nothing works, and the reason why we find that we can change in ourselves, or we just bloody can't, is actually to do with resonance. And I don't just mean that you're in a really good vibe. I mean, because there's all this stuff firing in my head about this now, because now I'm starting to write about resonance, because resonance, for me, is the connection between cymatics and me changing matter with my mind. And whether that matter is my emotional state, because that's matter, that's chemistry, or it's me changing my body, and that's still matter because that's genes that have got to upregulate and downregulate, and structures that have to change and all of that. Or it's changing matter by creating abundance, because all of that is people and things and situations. It doesn't matter to change matter. It does matter. To change matter, there has to be some kind of resonance. And so I'm writing about resonance now, because we all know that when you do energy work, whatever that is, if you hit the right vibe, well, what is a vibe? It's a resonance, it's a frequency. So I started looking up what resonance is, because that's what I tend to do. As I have all these intuitive feelings and experiences, but what actually is resonance? And it was interesting because I looked up all this good stuff, and then I made a boo-boo in my Word document. I copied I was on a Google search and I copied the link on the Google search. And of course, those things are big, long, and ugly. I mean, they're about 5 million characters long. And I copied that and pasted it into the Word hyperlink box. And Word went, "You what?" and broke. So I had to go back and rewrite the last little bit that I'd done because the document just said, "Wow, I can't do that." Spat the dummy. But the definitions that I just found and thought these are really useful were, first, everything has a resonant frequency. You know the wine glass, when you wet your finger and you run your finger around the rim? Well, the resonant frequency is what you hear when that thing vibrates. And if you have 2 wine glasses with the same resonant frequency, when you make one vibrate by running your finger around the rim of the glass, the other one's going to vibrate on its own. And that's because of resonance, because this one, its resonant frequency matches this one. And so one goes and the other one goes, "Oh, I can resonate with you, whoopee." And going straight from there to when there is an enormous amount of energy in the brain, and Dr. Joe Dispenza and his team have measured this, so I know I'm not talking porkies, you actually get resonance happening in the brain, in the neurons, in the whatever it is, because they measure, they've got delta waves, which are really long ones, and then they have a resonance of theta waves, which is the next speed up, sitting on top of the delta waves. And then they have a resonance of alpha waves sitting on top of the theta waves. And then they have another resonance of beta waves. And each resonance is faster, but they all stack up. And they all add up. And so you get resonance. And when there's resonance in the brain, amazing stuff happens. Instantaneous healings happen. Because there's so much information that the information is carrying the frequency, so much information, because frequency always carries information. And there's so much information that it literally informs matter. And when that happens, you often get some kind of instantaneous change in the person's body. This is what happens. They've measured it. It's not a miracle. It's something that we just don't understand quite well enough yet. But it's what happens. So you get resonance in the brain. Wouldn't that be a healing? Yeah. Because frequency, which has carried information, has informed matter. And so, I'm trying to make a connection between the science that I've learned and the cymatics, and all of that is we can talk about that. And then there's this work over here that I've experienced in my own journey of overcoming my completely invisible brick walls. And I can talk about that. But there's no science for that. There's just my experience, so I'm sharing me. And the first bite of getting my teeth into this planet-sized thing that feels a little daunting, but it always does, and that's fine, is, okay, well, what's the connection? And between cymatics and me changing me with my mind, the connection is resonance, because you do have to hit the right frequency. And those beautiful demonstrations of cymatics that I was writing about and talking about, Nigel Stanford, cymatics versus music, I think is the name of the video. And if you go to my Patreon and you look at the last couple of posts, you'll find the link to that video in there. And it's such a cool demonstration of cymatics. It's awesome. And so it gave me this great platform to talk about it. But the point being that this is the connecting. It's like, you've got a hose here and a hose here, and you need something to bring them together. So cymatics is here, and me changing me is here, but the connector, at least part of that connector, is resonance, and that's why I'm talking about it. And so these definitions that I looked up just before I ran out of time today, one of them is that about the thing that you've got to have something that resonates with something else. Is you've got to have a match between the sound or the frequency or the wave or whatever it is that's doing whatever and the thing that picks it up. There has to be a match between this thing that's going to create an effect and the thing that is the target. And if there's no match, nothing happens. So that's one aspect of resonance. But another aspect of resonance is like what I described in the brain, when just the right things happen and this energy starts to move in the body. And I've felt that. Not to that extreme, but I have had moments. It's pretty gorgeous. It feels amazing. And that is the aspect of resonance, which is that you get something going, And resonance is this amplification and significant increase in energy that happens. So when the connection's made, when the resonance starts to happen, it adds, it stacks, it builds. And so the power goes up. And so if we can learn how to get in resonance with the future that we desire, really, well then, of course, because every one of us is a resonance all the time. All the time. We are a resonance. You're not making a resonance. You are a resonance. And so if we can learn to change our resonance so that it is a resonant match with the things that we want to literally create as emergences out of the void, out of the vacuum, out of the 0 point field, out of source, out of God, whatever words you want to use, well then it's a fact. The resonance creates the matter, not the other way around. We all think that, oh, I'm a body and I make a field. Actually, it's the other way around. You are a cymatic, you are a resonance, you're a pattern in the unified field, and your pattern is as big as the unified field itself because you're entangled with it, baby. And your body is an outpicturing of that, like a hologram. I spent some time reading about holograms this morning because I wanted to understand enough to be able to decide if I was going to try to explain about holograms. And I was actually a bit blown away, mainly because in order to capture a hologram, you've got to have, wait for it, a coherent light source. Normal daylight, incandescent light, whatever, won't do it. You basically got to have a laser. And with a laser, get this, if you don't already know, which you may, all of the light that comes out of a laser, it's light that is of the same wavelength. That's the first thing. So all of that light is going to be resonating with itself. And the second thing is that if you have a wave like this and another wave like this, the same, that's cool, but you've got to make sure if you want this light to be really coherent, they've got to go up and down at the same time. They can't be like this. They can't be at 6s and 7s. All the peaks and the troughs of that light have to match up. So a laser, which is what you have to use to create a hologram, has to be, it's coherent. I mean, a laser is a coherent light source. So you've got to have all the waves in phase and they've got to be all the same length. And that's why a laser is one colour, because that colour is the wavelength that's being used to produce the laser, right? So you have a laser. That was the first thing. It's like, yeah, okay, coherent light source. And then, I mean, they do a thing, they split the laser into two pieces, two beams, and there's the object, right? And both of the beams are then, instead of being a focused beam, it's still coherent light, but each of them goes through a diffuser so that now instead of being pointed, all of those coherent light waves being pointed in one direction, they're fanned out. And then one of those fanned out light beams is pointed at the object and the other one just carries on, and then you expose a photographic plate. And after that, it gets a bit complicated, but this is what I wanted to say. The two sources of light is one source that's coherent, and then there's one that's here which hasn't seen the light, hasn't seen the object at all, and the other one has seen the object. And because the light beams get bounced around because they're always reflecting off things and diffusing and everything else, those two different light sources that came from the one, they interfere with each other. And the interference patterns are captured on the holographic plate. That is what I wanted to say. That a hologram is a really, really, really complex interference pattern. And so I was wondering whether it was going to be a good idea to talk about that, to say, look, it happens with sound, it happens with light. But the thing is that it's a very artificial setup that they have to do to create a hologram. And I just decided, I don't think it's going to help me explain what I wanted to say anyway. But I was kind of sitting there feeling, wow, a coherent light source, an interference pattern that gets captured on a film. And it's either going to be something that the light, when you read the hologram, I mean, when you look at a holographic plate just with your bare eyes, it probably looks black. Or if it's been bleached, it looks clear or it looks white, you know. Oh, well, I'm not going to elaborate on that. And the point is that in order to see the hologram, guess what? You've got to use the same coherent light that you used to make it to see it. And that just kind of, it was like, oh my God, you've got to have coherence. You've got to have resonance all the way through to make a hologram. But I don't know enough about it, and I don't really think that it adds to the understanding. So I'm just sharing my rave with you, my little moments of, oh my God, this is amazing. There's so, because you got to have that coherence in order to have resonance, and you do need resonance to change matter. Just been explaining why. So this is me, you know, this is like a leap out into the unknown for me, because I really do not know. Like, I know now I'm going to be writing about resonance, and when I've finished explaining that, I don't know what the next step after that is, but I will know when I get there. So we're all on this journey. If you would like to see where the journey has taken us so far, please go to my Patreon. The link is underneath this description. You will be able to learn, because all the videos that I've made are here, you'll be able to learn about, first, why change is so damn hard, because there's a reason why it's hard, and it's not lack of willpower. It's because our bodies get conditioned, they get used to being the way that we are, and when we want to feel differently, they actually can't help but resist that change. It's just an evolutionary thing. It's not your body is your enemy. It just likes what it knows, and you have to change what it knows, and that takes effort, and it can be difficult. So I spent, a year explaining that, and it makes sense to me now, because of course I learn the most when I do this. And then the next chunk that I did, which is a little bit more recent, is about how matter actually works according to what I have learned and find to be truthful and useful to me. Of course, there's 50 other theories, but this, remember, is based on maths that actually works. It's amazing, amazing, amazing information. Just has blown my whole experience of life into a completely different shape, and I'm so grateful. So that's what we're doing on God of Me. And the whole point of God of Me, by the way, is to make this understanding of how to change yourself available to all of the people who can't afford to pay for it themselves. Not even for $5 a month, because not only do they not have $5 a month that they can do without, they don't have a credit card, and they also don't even have a bank account. It's those people that I'm actually writing for. And I know there's a bunch of other people that will find this information useful and will be able to pay $5 a month for it. So that's the long-term vision. I invite you to come to Patreon and check it out. You can access all of the videos that I'm doing for free. Just follow me for free. You get these for nothing. Hi, Susan. These are just loaded on YouTube, and they're loaded on Patreon. But on Patreon, what I do every week is I sit down and read what I've written to you, my free followers, and everybody, my patrons as well, so you can hear what I've actually written. And my patrons, they get insights. They find out what life is like for me in my journey, which is really quite interesting, at least to me, and it seems to be interesting to them as well. So I invite you to check it out. I'd love to see you there. I love answering questions. I love people to interact and tell me what they think. And most of all, if you listen to the chapter readings, if you follow me for free and listen to the chapter readings, and you think, I don't understand that, if you tell me, oh, I didn't quite follow it. What? That's valuable to me, because then I know that I've lost you. And if I lost you, I'm going to lose somebody else. So I really appreciate you if you want to do that. It'd be great to see you there. Okay, I know I've used my time, so I'm going to send you lots of love. Thank you for joining with me, because that's such a privilege to be with you. And I'll be back next week with more. Until then, be well. Love yourself as much as you love everybody else you care about, because you deserve it. And I'll be back next week. Bye-bye.